Hey everybody, we are live on a Tuesday afternoon looking to talk our final Oscar predictions. Well, I don't even know what word that is. If you can help me with that word, gentlemen, if you can introduce yourself and say the word I was trying to say.
Predictions?
Yes,
I
yes,
don't.
that's
I
it.
don't. I don't know, Sean. Listen, we are less than a week away. The nerves are starting to creep in, but it does feel like this year is a little more. It's a little easier to predict, I think. Now that being said,
Right.
there's one or two categories I'm very excited to talk about, Sean. So thanks for having me on. And Oppenheimer, sweet.
Right. It's like you go to some of these years and you're not really sure where's this thing headed, what's good,
Yeah.
and you go into this one and you're like, I think Christopher Nolan's gonna have a good year. All
That's what it feels like.
indicators, it's gonna have a good year.
Yeah.
There's a few categories it could be a little bit interesting, but yeah, that's just why I decided to get into the Oscar game this particular year because so much of it is just a little bit more predictable. Just in general, I think we talked about this before, but the nominations feel more balanced this year than some other
Yes.
years, and there have been a few solid balanced years over the last decade, and there's been a couple years where I've looked at the nominees and been like, I watch movies for a living, and I've only seen one of these movies. And this year it wasn't that. And even if some of the
Yeah.
ones I hadn't seen, they're it feels like we're getting a variety of films, whether you're talking about foreign films, accessible mainstream films that are making $1 billion or just a pinch below $1 billion, plus the art house stuff. Like it actually represents cinema in the year 2023.
Uh, I mean, just some massive blockbusters, like you said, some very just out of the box movies, but movies still, even then, that are kind of accessible. So I feel like almost everyone that was nominated, even the ones that I'm not as high on, like Maestro, are somewhat accessible. Maybe
Right.
Poor Things aside, to more general audiences. And it's funny because even my wife, she's seen almost all of the nominees. So it's pretty cool to be able to talk Oscars with everybody this year, not just the hardcore fans.
Right. And yeah, that's and for me as someone that just got into being in a critics association, getting some of those for your consideration screeners, I feel like it was the right year. A lot of pieces came
Yeah.
together to have a solid first year of me playing this game on a more meaningful level. But with that said, with this, we're just gonna go through the categories. Probably not all of them because I don't think either one of us have seen the shorts, but
Yeah.
the categories where there's something we can actually talk about, and of course, our prediction for who we think's going to win, who we want to win,
Mhm.
and then also who in my some of these who I don't want to win the one. But if this person wins, if this film wins, I'll be frustrated. So we got a couple different things kind of working on there. And I right before we went live, I was doing my research so I'd be slightly less ignorant while we did this live stream, and realized that Perry Nemiroff, Jeff Snyder are going live with their own Oscar predictions, but at the exact same time as us. So, sorry, have direct competition with our friend from
Oops.
MegaCon last year in Perry. So, whoops, it happens. But like, I literally like looked up their video to see what did they
Yeah.
say. I mean, get some educated by them. They're live right now. So I might even leave this live stream a couple times. I'll put you up
Check in.
in focus, and then I'm actually watching their video to figure out what to say that's slightly more intelligent than what I would normally say. With that said, let's dive into this. Which one of these? Oh, it's out there. They've been shuffled around. It was what
They
before
all
we
look
went
good.
live. It was between the two of us. Now it's off to the side. So let's start things off with something smaller on the list. Costume design. Costume design. I'll send this one right over to you.
Yeah.
Who do you think's our winner?
Yeah, so this one is a little more of the, behind the scenes, not technically technical categories, but the ones that are lower down on the list compared to actor and actress. This one's a little harder to call because I believe Poor Things and Barbie are in a direct competition for this and production design. A lot of people have one of the two movies sweeping both categories, but I feel like they're not going to do that. I think they're going to share the love here and split it down the middle. It just, it depends on, do they give costume design to Barbie or do they give costume design to Poor Things? I feel as if Barbie is going to win costume design and Poor Things is going to win production design. My reasoning is because we've seen of the few things that Barbie's managed to win. Talking about the preliminaries, Barbie's had a little more success than maybe I expected. And then on the production design side of things, Poor Things has had a little more success. And I just don't feel like one is going to win both. So this may go down as Barbie's only win of the night, other than song. But I think Barbie's going to take
Ooh.
costume design. Yeah.
Costume design, you go for Barbie. And so,
Yeah.
so in some of if you kind of look at the ones in there, you've got the two that are kind of the outside the box, not grounded in reality. Then you have 3 period piece films. And obviously all of them did a great job at what they were going for. Think, what's the more interesting of them? If you look at Barbie, it's able to turn toys into believable costumes. And then in the case of Poor Things, it's just going wild and crazy and making it like interesting to look at. I don't have a hard vote on this one for where it could go. But I think there is a little bit of even what you said of even in people's ways of thinking. If you're going in that creative design, are Barbie and Poor Things against each other that cancel each other out? But then on the other side, you have 3 historical films that also you could have that same logic. Costumes, I think I'll go Barbie too. I think I will go the Barbie route as well for my vote on that one. Let's see. What was the other one you were saying on there? Let's go straight over to the other one.
Production design is the one that kind
design.
of, yeah.
Okay,
and it's
so
funny,
production design.
Well, I was going to say, because this year it's almost like and it's not that it's going to be one movie's going to win one movie has to win the other. One could sweep both, but it's almost like it's going to be one or the other. And so my rationale, and it's also one of those things where, I would actually vote personally. I think I would go Poor Things costume design, Barbie production design, but it almost feels as if the script has been flipped with these preliminaries. So I feel as if they're going to go the other way on this one, give this one to Poor Things. Now, I am very partial to Oppenheimer, so that's kind of one that I wish got a little bit more love in this category, but it's already going to win a lot across the board. I think Poor Things is going to take production design. That's where I'm going here.
I don't know. It feels like the kind of using that same kind of logic as before of Barbie is just so memorable for those images, and there's that frustration with the snubs, the things that it didn't get nominated for. Very unlikely that it wins Best Picture, in which case it has nominations where if it wins production costume, who's going to complain? Because they did very cool things. They brought toys to life in a vibrant, lively way. So I will go Barbie takes the costumes and the production design.
Yeah, I like
for
that.
essentially the same logic. That's where I'm going with it. But I find some of these so tough because you look at like Napoleon, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, 3 world-class directors.
Yeah.
Doing period piece films that flawless productions. I mean, I think Napoleon's kind of thrown out because it's just not the movie as a whole doesn't good enough that it has people's attention on it. And then Killers of the Flower Moon versus Oppenheimer, it feels like an Oppenheimer year if we're gonna go period piece on it, but it feels like these ones might go in the wackier directions for the more outside the box stuff.
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's go. Writing adapted screenplay. And I said on some of these, wanted to say the ones we don't want to win. I really don't want Zone of Interest, Poor Things, or Barbie to win. So there's 3 of them I'm like very much against it. And I don't think American Fiction fully stuck the landing. So I'm like really into Oppenheimer on this one.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, I mean, my personal choice, it's not my prediction. I would go Oppenheimer. I felt as if, and I know we've discussed this before, Sean, the weakest aspect of Barbie, and it's a movie that I really enjoyed, but I think the screenplay may have been the weakest aspect.
Weakest
of it.
aspect, yeah.
which
Yeah,
is crazy.
director's not nominated, but the screenplay is like, this is backwards. This is the
Yeah.
wrong piece got nominated here.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. So,
Right.
and so that's why I would lean my personal feelings Oppenheimer, but my prediction, it's going to be, this rhymes, American Fiction. It's a
Mhm.
movie that has, you know, up the last couple of weeks, win after win. And I said, eventually this thing has to slow down and give somebody else a chance. And it really hasn't as of late. And so American Fiction within a month has become just a heavy favorite for this category. And I think American Fiction has it in the bag at this point.
Mhm. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it. I felt like it chose a non-committal ending, and so it
That was
left
my
the
issue
movie
with it.
like everything about it was like, oh, it's like dramatic, it's funny, it's like poking on racial things that it's very
Mhm.
easy to be to step on toes, but it does it very well in a way that like it's challenging while being entertaining, all doing it through
Mhm.
story, and wherever it goes it counterbalances it, and then it gets to the end and it felt like it couldn't commit. So that's where my holdup on it. But like you said, it's winning a bunch of things. As on Barbie, I think the script was the weak aspect, and it gets too lectury at the end.
Yes.
Poor Things, I think I'll have thoughts on it, but I think it's built on a concept that is does not work for me. And then Zone of Interest, it's I like I would love to have the conversation of the argument for being on screen nominated for screenplay, because it's the nature of it. It's so atmosphere based. It's not
Yes.
the narrative. It's not the dialogue, and so I don't see it. But obviously, there's people smarter than me, so I would be interested in the argument on it. But at the moment, I watched it last night for the first time, so it's like the
Okay.
Zone of
Wow.
Interest is very much on my mind.
Yeah.
Fascinating to me on that one. Speaking of Zone of Interest, while we're talking about it, let's skip right over to the sound category. And for that exact same reason, I think Zone of Interest is the movie that just makes the most sense. So those of you, if you haven't seen Zone of Interest, essentially it's about this, nice family story about a guy gets a new job, moves his family into a nice neighborhood next to
Mhm.
Auschwitz, and he's running Auschwitz. And so what you're seeing in the movie is happy family, just being very like flippant about how was your day at work, and the sound in the background, everything in the background, it's Auschwitz. Like it's
Mhm.
horrifying. And so the whole movie is built on the sound and what it does there. I've never seen that before or
Yeah.
heard that before. So that's the one that comes to mind that just feels like that's interesting. Like this is so important to the film. The film only works because of the work done with the sound. How about
Yeah.
you?
I want to go Zone of Interest here because that would somewhat be an upset in this category because most of the preliminary wins have went in Oppenheimer's direction, but there have been a few that have given it to Zone of Interest. And so I do think this is actually a competition. I'm going to go Oppenheimer as the winner, though. I just feel like this is a movie that is going to sweep technicals,
Yep.
and it's one of those Lord of the Rings situations where it has an opportunity. I don't think it's going to because of screenplay. It has an opportunity to win almost every award it's nominated for, and it's such a behemoth. I think it takes this award. But I'm with you on the fact that Zone of Interest is and should be competitive in this category because of what they did, and I would not be shocked if Zone of Interest won it. But I'm going Oppenheimer for this one.
Yeah. And as I should clarify in all of this, um, I think Oppenheimer is going to clean up. But I
Yeah.
don't need to explain to people why Oppenheimer is going to do that, because
Yeah.
that's what everyone's talking about. So some of these, if my bias is towards talking about the thing that's most interesting to me, talking
Mhm.
about Oppenheimer having a perfect production technically, we all know that already. So just to clarify where I'm coming at,
Oh yeah.
I could be excited about either one of those winning on there. Right below it, visual effects.
Oh baby.
This is one where like that's like creator. I just I that I mean all my money. If Guardians 3 wins over the creator, I'm going to freak out and be very confused.
Uh-huh.
Put it that way. How about you?
I I feel crazy thinking that Godzilla's going to take this, but I do for some reason. I
Interesting.
do.
Interesting.
I think there is somewhat of an emotional attachment to this film because of what they were able to do, not only on the
Yeah.
budget, but the impact that this thing had in North America, and the amount of money that it managed to make when really no one even knew what it was. Like, I was talking to friends when it first released, and they're like, "You mean the one coming out next year?" I'm like, "No, there's one in theaters right now. It's really good." But it's slowly developed this hype for it that has pushed it. And I just feel like there's a celebration for this movie that would, even in it, if Godzilla wins, it's not going to make sense because there was the Visual Effects Society and they had their awards, and Godzilla was only nominated for one award and it didn't win that award, and the creator won the big one, and so the creator should be the favorite. And part of me thinks it may still be, but I just feel like Godzilla minus one is carrying that emotional right into the
The
ceremony
narrative.
vote. Yes, yes. Which,
That
granted, I think the movie's amazing, but I think it has that narrative going for it.
Yeah, and I think of the narratives there, you've got Godzilla minus one made for
Mm-hmm.
less than $15 million, and everyone's like, "Wow, this looks so cool," and then
Mm-hmm.
all the other ones are massive budget, and even compared to the other three, the creator is made on a very small budget,
Yeah.
comparatively,
Yeah,
and
you're
looks
right.
incredible. And
Mm-hmm.
Gareth has been doing some of these little. He went on VFX Artist React and talked through a bunch of the stuff a week or two back, and everything they did and the logic behind it and the way, and you just kind of go,
Yeah.
how does some of you guys make stuff look so good, so cheap, and it's your same company? They look so bad for so much more. But I guess for me, I think what actually just looks like the best, most convincing, like this is just it just looks real. I got
Yeah.
to go the creator. But I think
And it
the
makes the most
narrative
sense.
very much,
Yeah. Yeah.
narrative I think very much fits with Godzilla minus one. All right, writing original screenplay. So on this one, I think Maestro or May December. If they win, I'm once again very confused. The other three, I could go anyway. Help me understand this one right here. Who should I pick? Who should
Uh,
win?
so I I'm with you on the three that I think should be in a competition here. Past Lives, an awesome exploration of a very different kind of love that I hadn't seen on screen portrayed in that way. It was really
And
impressive.
didn't you see this one very early? Didn't you see it at a film
Yes,
festival? And so
yeah, I
this is
saw
what
it
you're talking about,
very.
MegaCon last year.
Hmm.
So this is on my. I mean, I didn't see it till 9 months after you recommended it, but
Yeah.
you'd put it on my radar way in advance, and here we are. It's getting all the nominations,
Yeah, we were
or
we
a lot of them.
were I expected it to get some nominations, but as we got further in the year, I'm like, will it? But it did very well at the Oscars. Although I don't know if Past Lives is actually going to get a victory at the Oscars,
Right.
which is kind of crazy to me. But the two for me that are in competition here, one, The Holdovers, two, Anatomy of a Fall. The Holdovers was the favorite for a while, but just the last several big ceremonies, Anatomy of a Fall has continued to win. And I don't see anything, and it's got a lot of momentum right now, right? And people love
Mhm.
the dog. Have you seen all the stuff about the dog? The dog's going to these award ceremonies and everything. So that's like the one thing they're
What?
talking about. The dog had a
Uh
press conference. The dog from Anatomy of a Fall had a press conference for awards voters. It's the funniest thing ever. And so everyone's talking about the Anatomy of a Fall dog.
huh.
And so that movie's just got a ton of momentum across the board. This is the category it's got the most in, and I think it's going to take it. Although personally, I would give the edge to Holdovers, but both are great screenplays.
Right, and they're what I really liked about Holdovers is it just felt like a classic awards film. Like there
Yeah,
used to
that's
be
why I
more
liked
movies like that, and when they came
it.
out
Yeah.
back in 1998, 2002, they would make a lot of money. They'd be big hits, and they'd get nominated. And so it
Yeah.
just felt like one of those movies coming back. So I want it to get as much love as it can get.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, talking about ones that like Maestro. I think there's a bunch of technical things about it that are
Oh,
impressive, but the
thank you.
screenplay is like an element where like that you didn't pick a lane, you didn't pick the thing that you wanted to focus in on and say something about.
Yeah.
So where are we going with this? And then May December is another one of those ones where I just thought this is just off. Like I'm not quite sure I get what you're going for here. All right, we'll get to best picture in a while. Music original score. You got strong opinions on original score?
I wish I still see John Williams on there. I'm just like, why is Spider-Verse not on there, man? I don't
Right.
get it. But
Right.
no, this is and has been from the moment this movie dropped in July. It's been Ludwig Göransson's award from the second, probably the second he stepped on stage to just to compose this masterpiece. Man, this is a masterful score. It's going to go down as one of my favorite scores of all time. And finally, the score that I want to win is the score that's going to win, and it's going to deserve it. I don't think Oppenheimer has a lot of competition here. But, you know, the score for Killers of the Flower Moon, Robbie Robertson, who, of course, passed away, that's definitely going to go down as one of the better scores of last year as well. So I'm happy that he got a nomination for sure.
Generally speaking, I just don't really like most modern scores. I like the flashier old school ones, the old John Williams, James Horner era of the past, where a lot of them are kind of more atmospheric and vibey now. So even of these, the scores don't normally pop out to me. Who do I not want to win? John Williams. John Williams is my favorite composer of all time, but we don't need to keep giving him lifetime achievement awards. Like for Dial of Destiny, what are we doing? Did you?
Yeah.
How did none of you see Across the Spider-Verse? What's going on here? Not have had poor things, but the score fit. Like the score was one
Score's
that
good.
built out very much fit the vibe, the oddity of it. But yeah, I mean, Oppenheimer's probably our winner on here. One quick comment said, I liked Maestro. I don't understand why nobody likes it. I don't dislike it. I think it was too try hard. That it felt like its goal was to win awards more so than to make an actual movie that people connected with. That's my objection to it. I think you can tell all the ways in which, like you watch Oppenheimer and you think Nolan's just trying to make the best movie he can. It just happens to also be a movie that's going to win a lot of Oscars. Whereas you felt like Bradley Cooper was trying to win Oscars and trying to, what's a performance that'll win me an Oscar? What can I spent 6 years learning to conduct. That scene is incredible, but it feels like you're doing it backwards. It's not the wrong goal is ahead of everything else. Had a
I'm with you.
super chat come in. Hypothetical. I forgot how to read and how words work. Hypothetical question here. Who would best picture if Dune 2 and Oppenheimer went head to head? This is a question I've been having, like, this is like everyone's big with Dune 2 being delayed, and you immediately go, what if these two were both out there and you had the VFX and the immaculate production that is Dune 2 versus Oppenheimer? Like, I think I think because of award voter bias and things like that, you probably would still have Oppenheimer as the clear front runner for Best Picture, but then all these technical ones that were like, oh, Oppenheimer, all of those ones, suddenly Denny's and his crew are stealing all those.
It would have been a competition for the ages, though. I do feel like they would have given it to the riveting biopic because that feels more like an Oscars type of movie. But you're right with the technicals. My God, just how in the world? How would you choose between Göransson and Zimmer for score? I don't know. So I would have loved to have seen that, but at the same time, for my sanity, I'm glad it didn't happen, and I'm glad Dune got delayed because to have, my favorite movie of last year possibly win Best Picture, and it's looking like Dune 2 could be ahead of the pack right now. That's pretty cool feeling, Sean. Pretty cool.
I've had a couple of these questions that people asked me over last year where someone was like, do you think Denis Villeneuve could be the new Christopher Nolan? Do you think Timothée Chalamet could be the new Leonardo DiCaprio? And in both of them, my answer was, I think both of them need something that's more of like, feels like their moment, that to the mainstream, they get the same acknowledgement that they get amongst the cinephiles, film Twitter. And like, obviously they've had hits before, but there's the difference between just that mainstream, you really have your moment, and you look at between Wonka and Dune 2, and then how big of like splash Dune 2 is making, it's like, oh, that thing
Yes.
that I said in the before, that it looks like that's happening, that they're
That's
having
it.
their moment.
Oh, it's
All
awesome.
right, okie dokie. What category have we? Oh, what have I done? Oh, there we're all good now. All right, what category do you want to talk about next? Editing.
Editing's a good one. Yeah.
Editing's editing's always a editing's always an interesting one for me because there's so many different ways to interpret editing
Hmm.
and what you can mean by it. Where do you go with editing?
Well, I'm going with the obvious choice. I'm going with Oppenheimer. A lot of the times you see the editing winner as you're watching this ceremony become like a premonition of sorts, like, oh, Oppenheimer wins editing, it's going to win Best Picture. They're heavily tied together. But it's funny because, and I think Oppenheimer's going to win. It got the ace editing, all the things that it needed. It's funny though because a lot of people have been talking about Anatomy of a Fall for editing, and Anatomy of a Fall as this movie that could, when we get to Sunday, could start coming out of nowhere and winning a couple of these awards. You know, it
Hmm.
gets screenplay, it possibly gets editing, it possibly gets this over here, and then all of a sudden, by the time you get to Best Picture, there is a little bit of a competition, maybe less so than other years, but people have been wondering what's that number two movie right now.
Hmm.
And I thought it was Holdovers for a while. I thought it was Poor Things for a while. I'm starting to think it might be Anatomy of a Fall. And so I still think, great, almost overwhelming chance Oppenheimer wins this and it goes on to win. But if anything else wins it, I feel like Anatomy of a Fall has the second best chance, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, this is one of these ones that's always so tricky to me because there's so much that goes into just personal preference, and in my mind there's all these other elements that go into the overall storytelling
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
what you consider editing, and how much is that the shoulders of the editor, how much is on the shoulders of the director.
Yes.
It's one of those categories. There's movies where you have very stylized editing, and it's very easy to like praise the stylized editing. It's the
Uh,
movies with reserved editing that I am not very good at having a good read on those ones.
yes.
So I don't have a particularly good guess on this one as to where it's going. So I was waiting for you to tell me. So what we say, Anatomy of a Fall is our underdog that's sneaking in there.
I think so. I could also look at Killers of the Flower Moon, the way that it kind of moves to the music and moves to the score. I think voters could look at that like, oh, it flows well because it's got those interesting cuts and things like that. But that's another Killers is another movie that's just kind of it's almost fallen off. I think a
Right.
lot of these potential contenders, Poor Things, Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, where we thought it would be competition, it's at this point Oppenheimer or bust. But if it's anything, Oppenheimer maybe, yeah, I mean maybe Anatomy of a Fall, maybe Zone of Interest, but yeah, those other potential contenders, they've really fallen off over the last couple months. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I like I said, this is kind of the first time I've really kind of tracked a lot of this stuff and had access to watch the movies early enough to even
Hmm.
have that early opinion. And it dramatically shifts your experience when you watch the movies in early December rather than finding out which ones you should pay attention to at the end of
Yes.
January because you're along for the whole ride. And yeah, so it's interesting to see those ones that kind of like have their moment where they pop for a little bit and then disappear. And then we'll get
Hmm.
to this in just a second, but like that somehow Naiad snuck in a couple
God, why?
nominations, and you're like, what is going on here? But
Oh,
speaking
my
of actor
brother, Sam.
nominations, actor in a supporting role, there
Hmm.
is one distinct front runner on this one. Tony Stark himself, Robert Downey Jr. Very likely to win. I think he's been winning all these ones leading up to it, and I
Yeah.
think he's the one that, without question, has the narrative behind
Yeah.
him. And if he wins, you can't really complain. Like, what? This guy won? Really? Him? Like, obviously, great performer, and just like the ultimate rise, fall hard, comeback
Uh-huh.
story, conquer the world, and then also finally get that Oscar 30 years later. So I think everything's on his side.
It's funny because earlier in the year people were saying it was going to be Gosling versus RDJ, and It's going to be Charles Melton is going to be the leader of the pack. Some crazy things happening here. Charles Melton didn't get a nomination, and Gosling hasn't really won anything. Like none of these preliminaries. And then someone else said, "What if Best Friends Mark Ruffalo came out of nowhere to beat his best friend Robert Downey Jr. and it broke his heart?" I was like, "That's a good narrative, but Ruffalo's not really won anything." I mean, this is RDJ or bust at this point. It's an achievement, a lifetime achievement award, but it's one that's warranted and it's one that's deserved. And it is, I think, his best performance of his career. So a lot of great things going into this. I can't wait for the speech. The speech is going to be great. You know it is.
Right.
It's going to be so good.
All right. Wolfman, hey, you're in the chat. Who's your pick? Who is your pick if not Robert Downey Jr. in this category? If he's overrated for the performance, who are you picking?
Interesting.
Glad you're in the chat. Oh, wait. Here we go. He has his own candidate in there.
I like
Alrighty.
that. I like that. That's a good choice. Iron Claw, one of the best movies of last year. It's a really good choice.
Yes. That's the frustrating one on all of these. I was going to give Iron Claw everything, every category, but they're not on here, so he throws one of our Iron Claw boys in there. But
yeah.
All right, so of the ones that were nominated, not just the ones that should have been nominated, Mark Ruffalo for me, not a huge fan of Poor Things, but he was a shining light in the film. Also not a fan of the film, but there were a lot of things in it that were well done. So, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, he was really good.
Okay. Moving right along to our Best Supporting Actress. Obviously, my vote goes for Jodie Foster because I've got my water bottle. This is to me the ultimate, the funniest thing ever, that they mailed out water bottles to all the voters, and they did in fact get 2 acting nominations for all the water bottles that they printed off and sent off to people that vote. But yeah, this is I really don't want America Ferrera to win. Emily Blunt, I just don't see it. Jodie Foster is fine in Nyad, but I don't still don't see it. So I mean, I think this is another holdovers one that seems like the easy win or the
it's
clear front runner.
I actually think it's one of the weaker supporting actress categories we've seen, because a lot of times you have at least 2 competitors in there, but not even Emily Blunt could take an award away from Divine Joy Randolph. So, I think Divine wins. I think Divine deserves to win. She's amazing in the film. And it's going to be nice to get some love for holdovers, because that may be its only win of the night. Unfortunately, how crazy is that? One of the best movies of last year gets 1 win, but yeah, I think she's going to win it.
Yeah, and that seems like everyone's prediction. That one is pretty safe on that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving right along. Once again, of course, Annette Bening for the win. Best actress here. So, I mean, this is the category that we got competition of the Stones, Lily or Emma, and 2 opposite performances and opposite contexts. Of one, it's the brilliance is its ability to stand out with subtlety and not saying a lot and playing against the icons, and the other one is in the surrealistic, overtly intentionally over the top. They're so different, and in their own ways, a great job at what they were going for. Who's our winner on here?
Man, it's so tough. I was all aboard Gladstone a while ago, and I'm like, she's going to win. It's happening. And then Emma Stone just had 3 weeks straight of victory, victory, victory. And then all of a sudden, you have the SAG Awards, and Lily Gladstone gets the victory. And that changed everything. And that is a huge momentum shift and a momentum push, because it's the most recent thing into, and it's a voting body
SAG
of it's
actors.
SAG. So
that's,
I mean, to me,
watching a video. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
I was watching a video specifically about that running, and like all the ways that Emma Stone was the clear front runner, and then the video ended saying the video was for the day SAG dropped and said, but everything changes with the SAG win. They either
Yep.
locks one person, or all of a sudden we're a little bit in a dead heap, and that's where we ended up.
This is the only one that I'm still sorting through in my brain. And momentum's a powerful thing, Sean. It's a powerful thing. And that shifted so quick at the drop of a dime. And so I do believe Gladstone has that momentum right now. And even though I do think Emma Stone's performance was amazing in Poor Thing, she did everything she needed to do. But sometimes subtlety is the one that gets the victory. And I believe a lot of people are going to look at that.
Well, and especially when you get the Scorsese movie that it doesn't look like it's gonna get a lot of wins, but there's one category where they have a front runner, and once again, kind of going into the narrative side of it, like what's the narrative surrounding it? I mean, Emma Stone already won a statue not that long ago, and then in the case of Lily Gladstone, this is a first time, multiple first times, so there's a lot going for her, and it was also like in my mind, she's not given a big flashy performance, and she's playing against like the icons of two different generations, holding her own and filling in so much of that film just through expressions and things like that. So that's my leaning, but it's like as the guy that doesn't like Poor Things, like I'm not gonna like if Emma Stone wins, it's like, okay, yeah, that's she gave an incredible performance. Will it be Best Picture nomination ranking? I've seen Austin. I can see Austin too. Yeah, I'll have a Best Picture nominations ranking later this week. It's a weird week for me for a variety of reasons. I got several things moving, and then South by Southwest starts Friday. Griffin, Film Speak was supposed to be staying at my house. It looks like that's falling through. There's gonna be 3 people staying at my house now. It's down to 1 person. So it's been a crazy week. I'm just trying to figure out how to get it all done. But as of last night, 2 nights ago, I watched Poor Things finally. And last night I watched Zone of Interest finally, so it's coming. Okie dokie. Alrighty. Actor in a leading role. And this feels to me like a much trickier competition. Like there's a lot of them like, I want a lot of these people to win, and for very different reasons. There's a lot in there that, and even as I've picked on Maestro a couple times in here, that movie starts and you're like, this is weird because that's Bradley Cooper, but that's not Bradley Cooper. And then you see those conducting scenes and you go, that's wild. But he's not even the front runner, and to a lot of people it's like, should he even be in here? Is he trying too hard? So who do you have on the lead on this one?
Well, when you're talking about who's my favorite, I've had a very difficult time trying to decipher that, because my 2 favorite movies of the year, my 2 favorite performances of the year, Paul Giamatti and Cillian Murphy, are both competing against each other in the same category. And so I physically, it makes me sick trying to decide. That being said, I feel as if the victory is going to go to the movie that is leading almost every category. And a lot of the times you have a big time performance going hand in hand with a big time movie, and that Best Picture sometimes carries into other categories. And not that that's going to be the sole boost that Murphy gets, but we need something to parse through this because it's a very close race. Murphy's done better with the preliminary stuff. Murphy has Best Picture on his side, I believe, and it was a just monumental performance for him. One of the best actors in the business, one of his best performances. So I'm going Cillian Murphy right now, but Paul Giamatti, I love you, buddy. I wanted you to at least win maybe something, but it's not happening.
This is the one where it seems like Cillian's the front runner, but also an upset wouldn't actually be that upsetting. It wouldn't be like, okay, that's fair, and it wouldn't be that unlikely. Like there's the one that you go, I think it's this one. I think Oppenheimer's night, it's going to be wild. There's a bunch of other ways that this could go that I'd be okay with. Guardians 3 should be the first and only, most likely, MCU win for VFX. Rocket has had audiences in love for the past decade, but it won't. I think there's a truth to that, and I think that movie only works on the VFX of Rocket. I think some of the other stuff where it gets a little bit more cartoony, and it feels like you're looking at a VFX, that's where it loses me a little bit. And there's just the way that the MCU does a lot of their VFX and the way they're handled. In particular, like when you're in a context where we all just watched Dune Part 2 recently, where everything, even the weird stuff, feels anchored in reality. And MCU isn't interested in that. So it's just, there's always stuff in there that just feels like a very expensive cartoon, or appropriately it looks comic booky, but it reminds you that you're seeing an effect. And so on the rocket side to it, I think you're right. But that's not the only VFX in there. Whereas with the creator, also, that you're just buying into the entire film, that there's all these cyborg things everywhere. And on the interviews I saw with the director, he's talking about all these little ways where they didn't do a lot of the normal green screen stuff. They did it more the District 9 model, the hard way, where you just film everything and then manually by hand remove it. And he was describing why. He goes, well, so much of it was, if you want VFX to be part of your world building, just make people believe in this world, you have to have VFX in there that you can't explain to an executive.
Yes.
And so if you say to the executive, back in the background, I want to have this lady like running her fingers through rice or whatever, and one of her hands is a robot hand, they'll say, no, here's a cheaper way to do that. But the fact that you just have this subtle detail of someone just doing this normal thing, it anchors it so much. And that's the stuff that some of these other movies that Villeneuve does or the creator did. And with Guardians 3, there's just too many that feel like a VFX to me when it's not Rocket and his friends.
I think of Quantumania, and not that that's the case for all the MCU movies, but that, you just have those really very obvious green blue screen, very obvious cartoonish, like you said, I think that's a great word for it, effects and that's that same look and vibe that I get in most of the MCU films, even the ones that I absolutely love. You get that, right?
Digital environments that it's just not quite right versus like there's not a shot in the creator or Dune 2 that feels like we're in a false environment. It always feels real, and you're seeing crazy things. Whereas Rocket looks real.
Yeah,
that Layla, whatever the budding friend looks real. And then you see something else and you go, that looks like a green screen. That looks like we're floating. Good. A very important point from the Disney nerd. Needed to say this real quick. Correct winner, Zac Efron. For whatever reason, A24 did not pick the best strategy to promote the movie that a lot of people on the internet think should have gotten nominated for a ton of things and should have won a ton of things. And instead, it got absolutely no love. And as I've said many times before, I would have nominated it in multiple categories. I would have voted for it in multiple categories, but I did not see it until 2 weeks after I voted. And so you kind of have that, like, talking about momentum, talking about what people are talking about. It didn't get any of that until it was just like too late. And so everyone's like, what's going on here? Why is that? This thing's great. Zach's great. And no nominations.
And A24 put all their chips in Past Lives and Zone of Interest, and there were none left over for what I think was their best movie of the year, The Iron Claw, which was just so unfortunate.
And the one that probably had just on a mainstream level. That's being mainstream isn't the most important things, but like of a classic, traditional, normal people. Like even I was at Thanksgiving dinner. And just talking about movies coming out, that's, as you can imagine, that's what my family talks about. So my brother-in-law's like, hey, did you hear about The Iron Claw? He, very normal movie, loves movies, but he doesn't obsess over. He's not watching all the Best Picture nominees, and he's like, yeah, I mean, I saw the trailer for it, and he's about 15 years older, and he's like, yeah, I mean, I remember when all this was really happening. And I was like, don't spoil the movie for me. He's like, it's history. What happened? I'm not spoiling, just tell them what really happened to these people. He's like, don't spoil the movie for me. But it's like one of those ones that like normal people know about it. And a wide variety of people, like, he's in his 50s And then Zac Efron obviously has a fan base that's under 40, and like it's very broad appeal in many regards. And then they just didn't go for it.
Yeah.
So very odd. All right, best director.
Oh.
Who are you going for on best director? Who will win? Who should win?
The answer, they're one and the same. It's Christopher Nolan and no one else. It's Christopher Nolan's, I think it's the best combination of things that he does very well with the first time, Sweepenheimer, I love that. Rin, what's up, man? With the first time that I've ever seen him just work with actors on a level to get those Oscar-worthy performances out of them. And it's like all of these things came together, combined with the narrative of, oh, well, Christopher Nolan's never won Best Director at the Oscars. Christopher Nolan's never had Best Picture at the Oscars. And so that all just converges so beautifully into this deserved victory. But it's one that, you know, we'll see great Nolan movies after this. We'll have, you know, all of these big monumental, crazy blockbuster experiences. I don't know if he's ever going to have a film that is so what Oscar voters love combined with what audiences love, like Oppenheimer. I don't know if it's ever going to happen again for Nolan. So this is the perfect opportunity for him to win, and I believe he deserves Best Director.
Right. Well, and I think it's all of the things that you have a director that everyone thinks is a top working director today, and he's never won before. And you look back at his films and you go, I can see why that never happened, but it's just some of it's just the types of movies he made. They're not the ones that you rush towards and think, give him the Oscar, and then you look back and you go, those were really important films.
Yes,
and then he
were.
makes a movie that is exactly the genre. And so people want him to win. Kind of it has that lifetime achievement vibe to it, while at the same time being like, also if he wins, you can't argue it. It's not like, how did he win this? It's not last year with Jamie Lee Curtis winning for Everything Everywhere All at Once, where arguably she's not even the best supporting actress in that movie. It's not one of those ones where this is not the movie he should have won for. You look at it and you go, this is the movie that he should win for, could win for. It's the type of thing they vote for. So it just seems very much like it is his year.
Absolutely.
Wolfman joining in once again. Best Director, Sean Durkin. Sorry, not sorry. Once again, this is the Iron Claw. And once again, he is not wrong in the fact that the Iron Claw needed more love. Had a question come in. If you were able to squeeze one more film for the Oscars, what would it be? Air or the Iron Claw?
Oh, they know us.
That's
so
a little
well.
tough because that's tough because they're both, in a sense, sports movies. But one of them is a tragedy and one of them is uplifting. One of them is like a comedy. One of them's like a family tragedy. They're very different. Iron Claw is the one that's much more on my mind. So the speculation, the discussion is Air came out too early for the Oscars. Iron Claw came out too late for the Oscars. Like at the moment, I've been feeling the last couple months like, man, maybe I should have had Iron Claw as my number one of the year. So at the moment, I have to say Iron Claw. I think Air was my number two, and maybe I would shift but that. That's legitimately where things are at for me. Like right now, I'm feeling Iron Claw. Some of that's I watched Iron Claw, and 2 weeks later started watching The Bear, and it made me want to go back and watch the Iron Claw again. So there's a couple things to that, but I think Iron Claw is just a little like of a movie that stays with you afterwards. And the movie had the best like line of dialogue, like a line that just stays with you afterwards, and it's just like it's carried by the Zac Efron's performance. In the context of everything that's just taken place, it's so powerful. So I think I would have to go Iron Claw, where it's like, yeah, Air's fantastic too. This is great. But Iron Claw was the one that kind of emotionally like...
I think I'm with you. And it's funny because they're both in my top 10 of last year. I would I raved about Air for months upon months upon months, and then at the very last second, I see this film that just emotionally wrecks me, and I'm like, "Dang it, man! I'm putting that above Air." And I ended up putting, I think, one spot or two spots above Air on my list. So, yeah, Iron Claw feels more Oscar-ish to me, even though Air has a more Oscar-ish cast. So, yeah, both great though. Both movies that deserve to be talked about more.
Real quick one on here. Some of you don't think I actually do a lot of live streams. I just do them over on Patreon. I do a couple of them every week. So I don't even realize I don't do very many live streams on my main channel. I'm actively trying to fix that this year. That's even why it's the second time I've had Austin on this year. And I want to make that something that I do, a couple times per month, maybe more than that. But if you like live streams and you want me to answer your questions, consider joining over on Patreon at any level. And we like literally 2 live streams every week. They're a lot of fun. And like, we have like our little community over there. But yeah, it's Wolfman says, I cried for 30 minutes after the Iron Claw ended. I went home and like I knew it was one that I couldn't just take my wife to it without like spoiling it for her. Because she'd be just like glaring at me the whole movie like look, she's gonna kill me if I didn't tell her how rough it was. And so I basically like told her what happened, and like I was trying to like recall the last line to her, and I couldn't do it. I was like couldn't get through the line because it's just so intense.
Yes, it is.
All right, is Best Picture the only one we have left?
I think so. Yeah, I think the only big one.
Best Animated. There's one.
Oh yeah, that's actually a competition. That's true.
So Best Animated, then we'll do Best Picture. If I can find it. Maybe it's in here. There we go. Animated feature.
Yeah.
All right. Let's pull this back up. Okie dokie. So on this one, said one of the big questions, what do you not want to win? What do you want to win? I do not want The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Nimona, or Robot Dreams to win. And I do want Spider-Man Across Spider-Verse. I mean, I haven't seen the Robot Dreams. I actually didn't even realize I had it. They sent it out in one of the box sets that they sent out to. I didn't even realize it was in it because I had no idea what it was. I hadn't heard about it, and then I saw the nominations, and then just last night when I was flipping through trying to see if I had Zone of Interest, apparently it was in the box set that Ferrari was in.
I have that too. That means I have Robot Dreams. Okay,
yeah.
Well, I had no clue. Oh my gosh.
If I could grab my...
That's crazy. I've been telling people I didn't get it. That's why I didn't see it. So it's the big neon
big
one,
red?
Right? Oh wow.
Yeah,
I did
Robot
not
Dreams.
realize that.
Yeah. So you can watch it tonight. Now do your homework.
Oh my!
But it's the thing is like
crazy.
Nobody knew what it was. Like I'd never heard of it. It was like I've got all these movies to watch. Robot Dreams. What is that? And then it turns out it's apparently fantastic.
Wow.
But yeah, I looking at these ones. Elemental. You have to have Pixar Disney representation, so it's in there. But like it's good. It's not bad, but like if this was a normal category that like there was more animated films like that, it just doesn't. It's a category that by its very nature, you almost always have a couple movies in there. You're like, really? Best?
I would put Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in there, Sean.
Right.
That's what I would have put in here.
Let's bump Elemental out, but I don't get Studio Ghibli at all. So I would. that was an endurance test getting through that one. Half the chat is unsubscribing right now.
As much as I love Studio Ghibli, Sean, I love their movies. This is one of the weaker films for me. So if it wins, to me, it's going to feel like let's give it to him because it was supposedly his final film. So I think it's a good movie, but I think it's far lower than a lot of his other films. So Spider-Verse is really, Nimona was good, but Spider-Verse is the only one that, in my opinion, should win this category.
Right.
Will it win? I think it will, but The Boy and the Heron has a really good shot to win this. So it's very up in the air at this point.
So question on where even is Robot Dreams to watch? Well, it's right here, obviously.
The box set. Come on, guys.
Just come over to my house. Just use my box set. Join a critics association. Get your time machine. Make sure you
Yes.
get one of these, and you can watch it at home. No, I
Oh,
don't think it comes out until summer. Like, I don't think you can watch it.
apparently, Sean, apparently, I think it's tomorrow. I want to say it's March 6th. They're doing an early screening of Robot Dreams at certain theaters. I believe it's March 6th. So I saw it on Fandango, I want to say Fandango or something like that. So Robot Dreams is getting like an early, I don't know if it's like a fan screening or like something to where, because everybody was telling me, Austin, March 6th, March 6th. So, hey, maybe you get to see it tomorrow. And yes, Suzume was awesome. Awesome. It was in my top 20 of last year. So I was
Trying
very
to look
bummed.
this up real quick to.
Yeah. See if I don't know what theater chain, but apparently Robot Dreams is doing some kind of early spring thing, you know?
Yeah, it's wanting me to enter data and type in numbers. That's complicated, so I can't do it. Yeah, I think that's the obvious winner. Just like you talk about a movie that you like, maybe they should have been nominated for Best Picture, and just like
Yes.
a movie that actually pushes the genre forward. And it's
Yes.
not just an enjoyable film. Like Elemental is an enjoyable film. It's a solid Pixar film. It's nice that they did a rom-com, but what here is like, wow, best of the genre. What here is, and you watch Across the Spider-Verse and you go, some people like it's too much for me. It's overstimulating. I don't like this style. Fair enough,
Yeah.
but we've never seen it before, and that's sometimes the exact reason why some people are like, what is this too much? Because it's just so groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm with you.
A fan of Stu hurts my soul. Yeah, significantly not a fan. Like making a category of movies that like are, I don't get it at all. Are full blown endurance tests. Studio Ghibli.
I love him. Don't worry, guys. I love him.
Yeah, it says subscribe to his channel. Just unsubscribe to me. Head on over to his place if you want someone that has good taste in movies and isn't just basically.
Let's not go
caveman.
that far, Sean. I don't know if I'd say good taste.
New TMT is overrated. Lazy joke.
Whoa.
There's, I mean, if you're doing teenagers and making them act like teenagers, teenagers make lazy jokes. Teenagers have juvenile senses of humor, so it's not out of place. So
No, it made a lot of
but
sense.
we have got one. Well, what Studio Ghibli films have you actually seen, though? Very few of them. I have asked people, like, what's the accessible one that you think I might actually like?
Uh-huh.
And they have given me answers. But, like, basically, I'm kind of at that point of I need someone to give me one that I can actually in some way latch onto something in it. It can't just be, like, weird animation that I don't care for. Now, I understand that it's the many ways in which it's incredible. Definitely not my taste. And then weird metaphoric that like dream logic floating around, people melting. Like I need something that I can I would actually likely to enjoy. Not that a Studio Ghibli person is like, this is one of the best ones. Like, right, but you like a thing there that I don't like. So you have to find what's the accessible one that like can pull me in. That's the easy on ramp to get me into the world of Studio Ghibli. And I'm like even now, like check out Castle in the Sky, Princess Monaco, Kiki. They're all saying different movies. Like everybody's giving a different answer. And so it's just like, okay, I don't think I can make it through another one of these ones where I'm just like, there's nothing here that is for me. There's nothing here that I'm latching. I'm so not wired for this. And so I need the one that I can latch onto. Like I'm always want to like things. So someone could help me. And another one, Howling, Moving Castle, Grave of the Fireflies. So we've now listed 5 different movies. That like that's where like like everyone have made these recommendations, but it just feels like everyone is just kind of throwing out their favorite, and like like you have to like me like what is going to get accessible, normal, something normal. There's obviously it's going to be different, but anyway, that's and it's once then check Hot Moving Castle. Yeah, but it sucks though. Like, I don't know. I don't know where to go with this. Have I seen the Chosen TV series? No, I haven't seen a single episode. I've been meaning to. My buddy Durbin, if you've seen their YouTube channel, Durbin, he's one of my original YouTube friends. I saw him. I see him a couple times, 1-2 times per year. He works for them, and it was through his YouTube channel he got a job at the Chosen, which is cool. Like he just started a fan channel and now works for the Chosen. He's on set with interviewing all the cast, all the writers, Dallas, all that stuff. It's pretty wild. Okay, what is going on here? Like now my wife is chiming in, like it's like just a random person in the chat, like, hey sir, I think you like Kiki's delivery service. Are you suggest this is what you want to watch while Rachel's in town to see if like you guys can explain it to me? Have Andy come over too. Andy's married now. I can't just invite him over randomly anymore. So
you can.
Anyway, well, yeah, it's a little more complicated. Anyway, I'm rabbit trailing. I'm spiraling out of control. I was chugging this C4 popsicle flavored beverage. There we go. Actually, there we go.
That sounds good.
I was at the gas station and popsicle flavored beverage.
How is
it? It tastes like a popsicle. I mean, I'm kind of infamous for having the most ridiculous tastes in things. And it's not even that I like them. I'm just drawn towards weird flavors, and Cody Leach makes fun of me for it sometimes. But you go for some pretty wild flavors too. Whenever I stayed out at your house, you're like, I got the variety pack. And it was like the full collection of all the colors of Monster except regular Monster. And so like that was like my first time trying green and silver and all that.
Got the big Sam's Club pack. Every color in the rainbow shop. I got a lot.
Wife says, sure, we can watch it.
Watch it.
Okay.
Sounds like she's made plans for you, Sean. That's you're
while
watching this tonight.
People are in town to go to South by Southwest.
It's
making me pay for having her watch all these Oscar movies and stuff recently. all right, back to Oscars. It's where like I've been hardcore spiraling. Okay. Best Picture nominees. We'll read them all off because I can't put them all up on the screen at once because there's 10 of them. American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, The Zone of Interest. So, got a bunch of movies in there. I always think you have to pause, especially with all the talk about snubs for Barbie and how Greta didn't get nominated. How do you get nominated for Best Picture but not nominated for Best Director? Half.
Yeah.
By definition, by the way it's designed, half to not be nominated. That's not quite the same thing as a snub. There's a little bit of a logic there, how that works exactly. But no, that's small. Is there a way to make? I guess you just have to do this to get the full view of it. But all of these movies, we've said it all along. We believe that it is the year of the Oppenheimer. That seems to be the front runner, getting a lot of wins, narrative, and if it wins, who's going to argue against it? Like, of course, it's a great achievement in film. So, correct. That's what we think should win and what we want to win. So, from there, what are our underdogs? Who are the ones most likely to sneak in and steal that statue out of Christopher Nolan's hands?
Oh my! Well, my heart wants me to say The Holdovers. That's what my heart wants, but I don't think that's going to happen at this point because I feel like The Holdovers may just get one Oscar with Divine Joy Randolph. I said it before. I genuinely believe Anatomy of a Fall has the next best chance. If it can somehow not just get screenplay and get editing, and then kind of lead us into that, well, Nolan's going to win director, but, it's a good chance Anatomy of a Fall. If it can somehow get that, and who knows, maybe Sandra Hüller comes out of nowhere and wins Best Actress, but I just don't
She's having an interesting year.
She is.
So
two movies.
Like, two different movies.
Yeah.
And like in that sense to where like she wasn't on anybody's radar, like it wasn't on my radar until Oscar season or award season, and all of a sudden it's like she is in all of these things, like running against herself.
And she's really good. Like she's great in Anatomy of a Fall. So That's not one that I'd be super disappointed with. But if it can somehow go here, here, and here, and everything lines up perfectly, then yes. But it's just like it's so rare when one movie is this unstoppable force and you just know it's inevitable. And as many times as you can pull this might be number two, this could have a chance, it doesn't matter because Oppenheimer's coming for that trophy. And so I feel as if, and it kind of stinks in that way because I don't like how predictable this year is, but at the same time, my favorite movie is going to win Best Picture. That's pretty cool. So I'm not super upset about it. And it rarely goes in that direction. So yeah, Anatomy of a Fall, maybe number two.
Okay. People ask, where is Iron Claw? At the top of my list.
Yeah.
I'd have it up. I'd give it the statue. So they need to ask me. Just let me help them with the nominations in the future. But yeah, I think in particular, like I remember back, like when I was growing up, you look at most of the Best Picture winners were big hit films: Braveheart, Saving Private Ryan, Gladiator, Forrest Gump, and you even look at some of the runner-ups from like people like Forrest Gump won. Why didn't Pulp Fiction win? Huge film. And then, of course, also Shawshank. Not a hit film, but it has gone on to become incredibly successful over the internet. And so some of the movies in the past were these event films that normal people went to go watch, and they also went, that was great. Average Joes, the people that go see maybe a movie per month, movie at one every two per month, every couple of months. And that's what like Oppenheimer feels like one of those again. Like just like and I think that is so much of what makes Nolan so beloved is that he's operating at that level that is really high, that he can pull in the cinephiles, he can pull in the movie snobs, but he also can make a movie that normal people like. He can take a historical film about science in Senate hearings and make it to $1 billion. I don't know why he decided to push Tenet this last month. Like, why didn't you wait a month to push Tenet? Maybe push Oppenheimer. And just like even in their write ups, they send up for it. It's like it almost made $1 billion. Like, right, you're close enough to $1 billion. All you have to do is push it. Just push the movie to get like. Just what are you doing? And so I think it's going to win, and I would assume that they'll put it back out in the theaters or whatever. But now you're competing against Dune Part 2. You lost your IMAX screens, you dummies. Like, why did you put Tenet on there? It's an odd choice. Sorry, I was ranting. I'm in a mood.
You're right, though, Sean.
Popsicle.
It's the
C4 popsicle.
But you're right. The movie should have been Oppenheimer should have been under any other directorial banner the most boring movie of last year. It should have been so boring, but somehow the man turned it into an accessible, riveting 3-hour blockbuster where everyone was anticipating not dialogue, not the rise of this scientist, an explosion scene. Because that's Christopher Nolan. That's what people look at, the practicality and all of those beautiful things. So it's crazy what he turned that movie into. And obviously Barbenheimer had a big effect on it. But without that quality, it wouldn't have been a hit. And it was everything Nolan intended. So I'm still so impressed that it did what it did. I really am.
Speaking of Nolan, what does box office numbers have to do with the quality of the film? Well, nothing in a sense, but I don't think that's entirely true. Like it doesn't, like when talking about box office, high box office doesn't mean quality film, but also if you make a film that people actually like, that people want to go see, that people are talking about, that drives up your box office. So you can't just say, like, you can look at a whole bunch of Transformers movies that are not good that kept making $1.5 billion. But I think that the point is that in that discussion of box office, it's that they made a movie that is quality, but it's also accessible. That's where I'm going with this. Where just a lot of nominees the last decade have just been a little bit more art house or smaller films or foreign, and the best movie should win, but it seemed like there was almost a shunning of things that are mainstream. It was like an intentional push towards that felt like an imbalance. Like that's
Yeah.
where I look at this year's nominees and I go,
Yeah.
this is good. Like I like this. Like you have multiple foreign films, you have small films, you have big films. This represents a lot of different film, and film, like, being mainstream does not make your movie bad. And that's
No.
there's almost sometimes there's a flavor of that no one
Yeah.
would say that, but there is a flavor of that in some of it. You go, Nolan makes a movie that it's like a very Oscar-y type of film, but also so accessible that like my 10-year-old was talking like, hey, can I see Oppenheimer? Do you think I should see Oppenheimer? Like, dude, no. Like,
Not yet.
but like they created a movie that got people excited in this weird way that even sixth grade boys think that they want to watch it. That's interesting.
And
Okay,
also repeat viewings. We're talking about box office. A movie doesn't get that many repeat viewings if it's not good. So I do think
Right.
in that way, quality is very important to people that want to go back to the theater. And I think that was a big part of Oppenheimer's box office.
right, and like the reason that a movie makes its money, like Transformers makes 1.5 billion because it's fun to watch robots blow up buildings.
Yes.
And Michael Bay is good at that. He's
Yeah.
not good at the story part. He's not good at, putting the focus on details on the right thing. So he's like over explaining why this relationship in the movie is not statutory rape in Texas, but not explaining the plot of the film. Like, priorities here, Michael. But if you go to that movie and you just want to see robots blow stuff up, you will get that.
Oh, yeah.
But Nolan, people going to Oppenheimer are looking for a great drama, and they went to Oppenheimer and they got it. And then it was also like I need to rewatch his movies, but like I think it's his funniest film based off just my initial
Yeah.
viewing. Like I think
Yeah.
it's his funniest movie, which is a weird thing to say. Like it sounds like Oppenheimer. You think that's his funniest movie, and you stop and think about it. The pace of the little one-liners, I think
Yes.
it's just a little bit more. And people have always his movies are too serious. He's always had these little one-liners in there, but like this one, they just like you kind of had to because you're just breaking the tension of these serious moments, and then like, well, it's nearly zero. What do you want it to be? Zero. Like you have all
Yes.
these little bits that are funny throughout the whole movie. And it's the whole package.
It's everything. It's everything.
Sean, before you and Austin head out, can we see that wonderful Naiad water bottle one more time? Do you have yours in your around that you can pick it up? Is it close?
My
enough to
wife,
grab?
she takes hers to her lunch when at work. She'll take it to lunch with her. So unfortunately, Sean, I do not have the Naiad water bottle.
Like it's legitimately a nice water bottle. Like it's like it's like it has this whole like rubber stopper at the bottom,
Yeah.
so it doesn't slide on your desk. Like it's really thought out, and it's like fun design where it says Naiad the swimmer and everything like that.
You know what's
that's
funny?
why
Somebody
I voted for best picture.
somebody at her work asked her, they said, "What's Naiad?" And she goes, "I have
Right.
no idea." So I'm like, why did it get Oscar nominations? Nobody knows.
What, and I read a book this past month. It was kind of on the rise of premium television, going from basically HBO to across all the streaming services. And there's
Yeah.
this whole section on how these companies that they just have too much money. Some of them, or like with Apple,
Yeah.
that the streaming service it's like their hobby. They make trillions of dollars selling iPhones and computers, and they're like, what if we made some movies? And so it's just like their hobby that they're like, yeah, what like wouldn't it be fun if we had our own Scorsese movie? Here's $200 million.
So true.
Oh, Ridley Scott, you want to make a movie about Napoleon?
Oh,
Here's $200 million.
true.
And it's like Matthew
so
Vaughn,
true.
you want to make a weird spy movie that's based off a book, but not really, like, and you won't tell us who wrote the book? Here's $200 million. They're just like throwing money around. And then the Netflix version of it is, I wonder if they have such a bad reputation for putting out so much crap that they're just trying to pay for Oscars. And so then, like with Maestro, like, how did it get all these nominations? They sent everybody that's
Oh,
in
yeah.
any Critics Association a box this thick that has
It's
like
crazy.
a book with everything. You have a vinyl.
Yes.
Like every single voter in every single Critics Association got this package that's worth $50, $100. Like it's like
So
I don't know
nice.
how much, but it's a lot. You think then NIAD? They're like just trying to get some NIAD nominations. So this is a nice water bottle. They sent out
It
to
is.
thousands and thousands of people, plus a poster and all this stuff, just trying to pay for Oscars.
And it worked. They
And it
got
worked.
the nominations, Sean.
They got it. They got 2 nominations for NIAD.
Good job,
Now they're the
Diane.
joke nominations that everyone is using as the punching bag of they paid for nominations, the system's corrupt, but
Sean,
they got them.
did you see that the VES, the Visual Effects Society, they did their awards, and NIAD won one of the awards for visual effects? It won a visual effects award. I swear. I swear to you.
What is this?
I swear to you. NIAD won a. Let's see which one it was. Visual effects award. Yeah. NIAD. They won one of the visual effects. Let's see which one it was. Let's see. It was.
If you guys don't know, NIAD, it's just Annette Bening swimming. That's all the movie is.
Okay.
The whole movie is just her swimming.
Outstanding supporting visual effects in a photoreal feature. The nominees were John Wick Chapter 4, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Society of the Snow, and NIAD. And NIAD won. I swear to you. I am not kidding, Sean. It makes no sense. Everyone on Twitter was like, what is going on? This is insane. Yeah.
They got a lot of water bottles. A lot of water bottles over there. All right, Chris Miner had a question. If 2026 is here, who wins the best casting Oscar?
Ooh.
So is the question asking if we already had that category if we're looking at this year?
Well, yeah, I think it because in 2026 they're actually implementing that award, so I think they're saying
if we applied it for this year, I don't. So I haven't stopped to think about it. So Oppenheimer's an obvious one that you throw in there because they just recruited, like, but sometimes I look at even some of that and I go, is this best casting when it's Christopher Nolan? Like that was the joke for what was that? 2020 summer 2022. The big joke was everyone was cast in the movie because everyone in Hollywood knew that this thing was going to get. Everybody knew what this was going to. So like. All of these Oscar winners have 2 minutes of screen time. Just everybody wanted to be it. Is that really even casting, or is that just like saying no to a bunch of people and saying, "All right, Raimi, you can be in this for 2 minutes. All right. Gary Oldman, you can be in one scene. All right." Like, but everybody. I mean, if you're just like, what movie has the most insanely stacked cast, top to bottom? I mean, Oppenheimer.
Oh, yeah. Well, if I look at the term casting, the Holdovers, they got a first-time actor in Dominic Sessa, who I believe gave an awards-worthy performance. And so that's one of those things you have to look at. Like, not only are we pulling all these big stars, we're getting these first-time actors out of nowhere. And so, for me, you got to look at things like that, too.
That's where I was kind of going with that. Of like, Oppenheimer's the one that's like the obvious. You look at the like stacked list. But it's easy when everyone wants to be in your movie and you're just picking from Academy Award winners. When you're able to, you find a nobody and turn him into a movie star, and you start then you start going, okay, well, Killers of the Flower Moon has both our top people, and we got Lily Gladstone in there.
You're right.
And you found the person that can play right up against them.
You're right.
That's impressive. That's the off the top of my head, it's tough to come up with the definitive answer because you have to like think through some of that. But I think it like the stuff like the Holdovers, the Lily Gladstones, like that's the stuff that I think the movies that have multiple of those, that's when they pop out to me when you're. It's kind of the same thing when I talk about casting comic book movies, where I always say I don't want the same short list of A-listers being up for every role. I want you to find the next thing. You think of even so many of the iconic castings. Christopher Reeve was not a movie star, and then he was he's known as Superman henceforth. Robert Downey Jr. was this burnt out guy.
Yes.
Christopher Nolan himself said this might be the best casting in film history, him as Tony Stark. And of just like a actor that was the star of the biggest franchise ever, and he shouldn't have been. The studio did not want him to be. And you think those are the ones in my mind that are like, that's great casting, not, yeah, I mean, you got all the obvious people to be in your movie.
Hemsworth, Hiddleston as Loki. I mean, Marvel really hasn't been. They've been getting the big star as of late compared to what they used to do in the early 2010s, which is weird.
They made stars. They were star makers.
Yeah.
Like Chris Hemsworth, like he's one of those ones where people knew that this guy's probably going places. He's the star of the 10-minute movie at the beginning of Star Trek 2009. Because the prologue is a movie in and of itself, and he's the star of that movie. And I like huge Star Trek fan, and I saw that movie a couple weeks before it came out. And like you're watching it, like who's this guy? Like, what's this guy that's like this guy's so good, and he's like has a presence about him, and then like 6 months later, like, hey, that guy that you've only seen at the beginning of Star Trek is going to be Thor. And like they found him, and then their casting is phenomenal. I don't know if you've
it is
if you've read the MCU book, but they go through and they talk about all the people that were up for all these different roles, and like pretty much everyone that was cast in Phase 2 auditioned in Phase 1. And it's like so many of these big names. You know, Pratt was up, I think, probably for Captain America, and I don't remember which one. Chadwick Boseman was up for a different role before. Like all these people were up for roles before, and they went, no, but you're on the short list whenever I'm casted in the next thing. And so they like just had all these times where they were just like they could spot the people that had that it factor, and that's what they did. And they did a great job of building movie stars for a long time, and they made some choices. Like they could be doing that now. Like if we'd already had Shang-Chi 2 plus New Avengers or whatever it was going to be, all of a sudden, like you make him into the star. You take the new people, and if Yelena hadn't been, it's been 3 years since we last saw her. Now Florence Pugh's the biggest star in the movie. Like you haven't put her in anything for 3 years. So if you put her in stuff all along the way, you'd be able to get your stars.
Yep.
Johansson was amazing casting for Black Widow, and she was the runner-up. They wanted Emily Blunt. Emily Blunt was offered the part, but she was contractually obligated to be in Gulliver's Travels. Like, do you think about like the craziest little stories of people that like what could have been and the choices that like like she said in interviews and stuff, it was like, yeah, it was part of my contract to be in The Devil Wears Prada, that I got this awesome opportunity that broke my career, and it's the reason that like I have had this career I've had is because of that movie. But it was, you can be in this movie, then you have to be in several more of our movies. And it was like lingering over her. And so eventually, I'll do Gulliver's Travels. And then Kevin Feige's like, we want you to be Black Widow. And she couldn't do it.
I didn't know that.
And it's kind of, it's wild because it's like, obviously Scarlett Johansson is fantastic in the role. And like, it seems obvious that for her to be in that role now. But like, you go back to then, like I first saw her and noticed her in a movie called Ghost World. That was like a small indie comedy. It's actually based off a comic book, but it's like she's just like this friend character in it with Thora Birch, and then she's got a couple of these other roles, and she did some dramas and stuff, but it wasn't like obvious that she was going to be Scarlett Johansson, Avenger, and they just like spotted these people, like they were able to find the right people, and it's pretty wild.
And if you think back to that time, Emily Blunt actually kind of fits what that version of Black Widow was in my head. Even the animated movie they came out with in 2012, I think Black Widow felt more like Emily Blunt than Scarlett Johansson. So I'm like, that makes more sense. But now you see Scarlett and you're like, no, that's Black Widow because we know her as Black Widow. So yeah, that's fascinating. I didn't know the Gulliver's Travels thing.
Yeah, and she like, I guess it was an interview just a couple years back where she got so blunt about the whole thing. Um, and I know I always love those things. The things that almost happen, the almost
Yeah.
castings and all that fun
It's
stuff.
fascinating.
And you think that, like, Jason Momoa was supposed to be Drax, and it fell
Mm-hmm.
through over casting. And you look at the career that Dave Bautista has, where
Yeah.
like how wildly different these paths are and different goals, and you think that the energies that each of them bring of like, what would that version of Drax have been?
Uh-huh.
What even is that? And then you think all the stuff that Dave Bautista has done in Dune and
Open
like
the
wanting
doors,
to be a
yeah.
serious actor and pursuing dramatic roles and stuff. And he's
Uh-huh.
like wants to direct a film. Like it's interesting.
It is.
All
That's
that stuff.
fascinating. Yeah.
Okay, what is? Hello, Sean and Austin. Would you guys love to see me, Subneat, and the Disney Nerd as Oscar presenters? What?
Yeah, sure. Let's
like,
do it, Daniel.
yeah, this is like a deep inside joke. This is like,
Yeah, okay.
like, do you have any idea who any of these people are that he's talking about?
No, but
Is it that so Dana Skinner, frequent commenter, Subneat's another guy that sends me a lot of fan mail, and the Disney Nerd, he's in this chat now. He's the deputized moderator in my live streams. He's on all the Patreon live streams. So this is just like this deep inside joke, but as why would be Oscar presenters? I have no idea. Are you guys charismatic and funny? Or are you gonna walk up there and make everyone really like make everyone uncomfortable with how weird
we'll
it
hold
gets?
auditions. I want to see you guys audition. That would be fun.
Alrighty, we'll go for send in a couple more questions about Oscars or favorite picks, all that stuff, and we'll close out in just a few minutes when we hit that 90-minute mark.
Why don't we be Oscar presenters? I think
Yeah.
we could do it.
Yeah, we
Maybe.
should do this.
I would be okay with that. Said Chris, please stop. Oh man.
It's like I can't really see some of it. Just seeing like, what is he telling him to stop? Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, there is this weird comment in here. There's a lot of it, many times. Thoughts on best song? I think it is a weird category.
Very weird.
That it doesn't like if it was tied to just musicals, then I would get it. Like, you know, in terms of like if you have a musical and you have the best song that's actually in a musical, it ties into the movie, sure. But when it's like, what's the song that Tom Cruise flies off with Jennifer Connelly to at the end of Top Gun Maverick? Like, what's the Lady Gaga? Like that, that to me is an Oscar category is bizarre. And when you have a song like that, that's just like, yeah, it's played as we faded into the credits, versus Ryan Gosling, the actor, sings a song that communicates an important aspect of the messaging of the film. Those are not the same thing. They're like, and so like that's where some of it gets real odd to me. So I typically don't like the category because it's peculiar.
Well, it's what you're saying is that's actually the two that are going up against each other are I'm Just Ken and then What Was I Made For? And one of those two is going to win for Barbie, but they're drastically different types of things. And the funny thing is, I think they're going to give it to What Was I Made For? So not even the song in the movie is going to win. So it's interesting.
That's the stuff that bugs me. But also, as long as we're doing that, I would give it to the Iron Claw song. The one that the brothers whose band is playing, and then at the end of the movie, right after as we're all like crying, and then that I want to live.
Oh my goodness! Whoa.
That's where I'd go with it. So question for you, Austin: what would you have switched out for Suzume?
Probably Elemental. I mean, it's either that or Nimona. I can't switch out Robot Dreams because I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
It is. Wolfman already, of course, said my answer. There you go. Sorry, I cut you off there.
Yeah, no, you're fine. I would say one of those two, Elemental or Nimona, but I would throw in TMNT Suzume right into that category with Spider-Verse. I would.
Okay. I didn't see Suzume, so I can't comment on that one. But Elemental, I just don't. It just doesn't belong in the category. Like it's not a knock on the film to say that.
Yes.
That
there were better.
It
movies.
should be nominated for the best. Like there's a lot of movies that I loved last year that I don't think should have been nominated for Best Picture.
Yes.
And that's, I think that's what makes a category like, when you single out, segment out
Hmm.
animated films like that, you create a weird situation that animated movies, let's throw them a bone, let's give them their own category so we can like filter them out of best picture.
Yeah. So
I
we
don't
don't
think you're
have to
doing anyone
nominate him. Oh.
I don't think you're doing anyone any favors doing that. And if you do what the Golden Globes do, of like, we've got musical and comedies, and you look at some of the winners in musical and comedies, like, what are you talking about? That's not a musical or a comedy. Like, there's a couple
It's so
jokes in it,
strange.
but like,
May
so it's
December.
bizarre stuff.
Yeah. So strange.
If you guys hosted the Oscars, I would die. That would put me like
Yes.
2 degrees away from. That's true. So this, I see where you're going with this. That would put me 2 degrees away from so many celebrities. I wouldn't be able to handle it. Yeah. So as of right now, because I know Perry, you're already only 3 degrees away. So just have to at some point in time have you meet Perry, and then you would have to die
Hmm.
from that because she like has interviewed everyone. So,
Everybody.
but yeah, if I was the host of the Oscars or handed out an award or presenter, my wife would die. She's funny around celebrities. It's amazing. Have you either of you seen the new Adam Sandler movie
Hmm.
Specimen? I checked it
Hmm.
out. It's not very good, It's-
Hmm.
as expected from Adam Sandler movies. Yeah, I haven't. I just been busy, and there's like kind of like uh, Shogun was one that was the show was something I was more drawn towards. I've watched the first episode of
Yes.
that,
It's
and
good.
but then I also had to watch Poor Things and Zone of Interest before this live stream, and then I have was trying to get the Villeneuve films watched,
Uh huh.
Kung Fu Panda movies watched, Best Picture nominees watched, all before South by Southwest starts. So I
Uh huh.
adding one more movie in there that I wasn't immediately drawn towards, but I'd seen good buzz. Like when I got myself in a little bit of trouble on the Twitter, and trouble is overstating it dramatically, but the initial audience score for it was 100%, but the
Mm.
audience score came out 3 days before the movie released. I was like,
Yeah. Didn't
were
make
they
any
time
sense.
travelers? Where's this coming from?
Yeah.
And I guess the movie played in several markets early, so there was some explanation. So my
Yes.
snark might have been ignorant, but I stand by my snark. But it seemed like a
Uh,
lot of people did like it, but you're saying it's not very good. So
it was okay. I mean, I
all that to
loved
say, Austin, what
Hustle.
did you think about it?
Yeah, I loved Hustle. I think Adam's been on a little bit of a streak, hot and cold. His comedies on Netflix aren't very good. I was disappointed. I wanted and expected more. It was fine. I didn't hate it, but yeah, I expected a lot more from it.
Have you seen all the Best Picture nominees? If so, what did you think of Zone of Interest? As of last night, I finished watching all of the Best Picture nominees,
Nice.
having just finished The Zone of Interest. That was the last one I watched, and then Poor Things was the night before that. So I've now watched all of them. I will have a ranking. I would say I think it is a great experience. I don't know if there's enough there to fully justify a full film of it. And so I'm struggling with what do I do with that. I can say this: it is definitely not at the bottom of my ranking,
Mm,
and it's also not at the ninth spot on my ranking. I
mm.
will say that from there, I'm still processing through it because it is so different. It do something so interesting, and at the same time, I went, okay. I mean, I got the point in the first 20 minutes, and then there was another hour and 20 minutes.
I
And
said the exact same thing in my review, Sean. I think it should have been at one of those like 45-minute movies on Netflix. Like I feel like it would have worked a lot better. I'm with you on that.
right, yeah, and it's tough because it's like there's something here that's really interesting, profound, deeply disturbing, and unsettling. But I got that in the first half of the film, and then it kept
Yeah.
going. When inherently the actions of our protagonists, when inherently the plot is supposed to be mundane
Mm.
and trivial of sorts, there's another sense to it of like, I mean, like you could take all the stuff about him getting promotions and being like, ah, man, my job's taking me away. Oh, good news,
Yeah.
I got a big promotion. I'm heading back to Auschwitz. Like, you could do that in much less time and get the whole point of it across. That like
Yes.
it's like all the stuff that they do there. Um, it's like a series of things that all hammer the same point. over
I
and
agree.
over again. And every time they do it, you feel your stomach turning. Every time it's effective. Every image, every concept, they'll work. But yeah, so that would be Sean's overall thoughts. Okay, we got a few more super chats in here, and we'll close out pretty shortly. Thank you so much for the super chat. Seeing you two collab is like seeing Robert De Niro and Pacino in a movie together. No lies detected. Imagine if that happened. If only thoughts on Annette Bening. Thoughts on the Annette Bening nomination.
Get that water bottle. Yeah.
I know that I nominated her. I know
Oh,
that
yeah.
I nominated her and Jodie Foster. And while watching the movie, I had a cool, refreshing drink of water from my Naiad water bottle.
Hey, that water bottle's pretty cool. What movies? Where'd you see that movie at?
Naiad? I
Naiad,
watched
what is
it
that?
on Netflix.
Oh, sweet.
Oh,
So cool.
I think it's frustrating because there's nothing wrong with her performance in the movie. She's a world-class actress giving a world-class performance in a movie that I enjoyed, but I don't know what was in there that would make it justifying. Like, hundreds of ladies gave performances this year, top 5.
Yeah.
I don't see it at that level. And in particular, it's hard not to be cynical when I got a box of Naiad swag from Netflix. The only reason I watched Naiad is because they sent me a box of swag.
Yeah.
Like, no one was talking about it. No one was like, have you heard about Naiad? Yeah. Oh, dude, it's like the sports movie about a 63-year-old woman that you've always wanted. I have always wanted that. What is it about? Swimming from Cuba to Florida. Dude, that's what I've always wanted. Let's do this, bro. That's how I talk to my wife. Like, dude, let's do this, bro. Let's watch Naiad. Yeah, I do a great impression of myself talking to my wife.
Good.
I know us really well. But so like I'm really cynical and negative, and I'm treating it like a big joke. I thought Naiad was a good movie. I thought her performance is she's doing a great job. But the question is it great? The question is it one of the best? Those aren't the same thing. How about you?
I keep thinking about that Naiad got 2 acting nominations and Iron Claw didn't, and I just get mad.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So
now,
I just,
right.
I get
Right,
mad.
and I don't
really mad.
want to go too far down some of those paths, because then when people I have a big issue with how did Ryan Gosling get nominated but not Margot Robbie? Like, this is sexism. Like, well, Margot Robbie didn't get nominated because a different woman got nominated. She's in the category against women, and that's not how this works. Like, it's not like they had to pick between, am I going to nominate Ryan or Margot? That's not how it works. They're not competing with each other.
Different categories.
But at the same time, in every nomination that feels undeserved to me, I'm just going to bring up Iron Claw because I'm so deeply offended.
Me too. Every time.
Okay, this is a good question. The good stuff, important stuff. Which do you think is more Oscar-worthy, Megamind 2 or Madam Web?
Oh, did you watch Megamind 2, Sean? No. Why? It's so good.
The real reason is that Chloe had a sleepover at a friend's house. I was going to do it. I was going to be like, kids, there's a Megamind 2. And have us watch like the worst movie ever. But then Chloe had a sleepover, and then I had to watch all that other stuff.
It's a great way to punish your children. Watch Naiad.
Who would be the most likely to swim from Cuba to Florida? Myself, Daniel Skinner, Michael, Zachary, Austin, or Sean Chandler. These in-jokes. They're all Patreon in-jokes. These are, if you want more of this, all of this gold, this is what the Patreon live streams are like.
I need these in-jokes on my channel. Hey, your group, come over to my channel so I can just like see who's better at presenting and swimming.
There's this whole mythology around Daniel Skinner and the Disney nerd. Which one of them knows more martial arts and which one of them would win in a fight?
Dude,
so it comes up every week, and they're like talking about how they've been training for when they have a fight to the death. It's crazy, and
That's
and then
awesome.
they'll be like they'll start a question with, so last night I was stoned out of my mind, just like the Disney nerd, and on black tar heroin, like the Disney nerd, and I was pondering. Do you think Black Widow would have been better in black and white? Like it'll be like this bizarre question. Like what?
I love this. I want it. I need it. That's awesome.
Alrighty. Probably should close on out. Actually, it's I have a little since something through this one up. Last question for Sean. This is a good one. Are you a big Razzie Award fan? I am a big Razzie Award hater, so it's like what you said, just the
Ooh.
reverse of it. I think the Razzies are just awful. It's
They
like a
are.
one-note joke. It's like low-hanging fruit joke
Yeah.
exclusively. There's nothing witty or clever about any
No.
of it. And so for me, I just have never, ever, ever, how do we do? Sorry, I'm not meaning to
What
kick you out.
kills me, Sean, is that they'll nominate kids in
Right,
these
right. That's what,
categories.
they're like, isn't it funny we nominated a 12-year-old for worst performance? Isn't that a
doing?
good joke? Like,
What are you doing?
what? What?
Oh,
Like, who thought this was okay?
no.
And I think it's like a joke that's not funny. It's not in any form or fashion criticism in a meaningful sense.
No.
It's just a cheap joke.
Yes.
And like very rarely does it feel like a fun joke. There's a couple of times, like I think was it Halle Berry, didn't she famously
That was
or
funny.
infamously the same
Came
year
there
that
with
she
her
won
Oscar.
an Oscar, also like won a Razzie, and so she went up
Yeah.
with her Oscar to pick it. Like if it felt like that every year,
Uh-huh.
if it felt like we're in on the joke, and hey, we take ourselves too seriously, let's knock ourselves down a few pegs.
Yes.
When it's that, like like that like that is the moment of the dream of what you wish it could be, holding
Yes.
up your Razzie and Oscar at the same time. That's a
Mm-hmm.
wonderful image, but that's not what it is. And you
No.
look at the nominations, and you like every year. Let me see if they did they announce the nominees already, or did they only announce the winner?
I believe they did. They may have even done the winner, but I thought I saw a list of nominees from 2023, which again I see some of those and I'm just like, first of all, there are worse movies than this. They go for the most popular stuff, and sometimes they go
Right.
for the popular thing that's not actually the worst. It's just the biggest and not
Right.
very good. So I'm like, that's not even it just doesn't make sense half the time.
Right. Okay. Let me pull this up real quick. This is a good one Thank you, Ryan, for the question. This is a one that I wanted to rant about a little bit. Okay. So like worst picture. Where's the? Oh, where'd you go? Worst picture. Exorcist Believer. Okay, fair enough. Expendables 4. Fair enough. Meg 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Of course.
Duh.
Shazam! Fury of the Gods. No.
I don't
No,
get that.
like,
That's
it's
so
not-
weird.
It's just punching at a movie that underperformed. Like
Yeah.
if you want to call it mediocre, below average. What do we? Oh, what are we trying to? Oh, it
Sign
wants me
up.
to sign up for their email address. That's
Gotta sign up.
thanks, Entertainment Weekly. That'll convince me to do it. It's just like punching a movie that's down. It
Yes.
like this is a franchise that crashed and burned, lost a ton of money, but the Shazam! Fury of the Gods is nowhere close to one of the like actual worst movies of the year.
No.
And so it's just like, what are we doing here? And then like worst actor, like none of like I don't mind picking on these people for these, but it's just like what?
They're not.
What are we
the worst
doing?
of
Like
the
what
last year.
like Ghosted is a soulless movie, but it's
Yeah.
not like Chris Evans was acting poorly in it.
No.
And then like you look at like just kind of go Helen Mirren and Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Like what are we
That's
doing? What are these?
crazy.
Worst supporting actor, like Michael Douglas, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Like you're just picking on Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like it's not
Yeah,
like Michael
that's all
Douglas's
you're doing.
performance. Like what?
So
Eh,
weird.
Stallone in Expendables 4, I'll give you that one. That
Sure.
was a weird that you could pick on that one. But oh yeah, Bill Murray is Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like wait, and like what like what a
So
confidential
weird.
informant Mel Gibson? What even is this? Like
I
are you
don't know.
is this like wait, well, we have to put Mel Gibson in there because he's a jerk. He's awful.
I was
So
going to
let's throw
say,
him
it
in there.
sounds like they don't like Mel Gibson. That's what it sounds like.
But who's seen this movie? What and Megan Fox in Expendables 4. I'll give you that one. That was.
Okay.
I'll let you pick on
Brutal.
Expendables 4. Worst prequel remake ripoff. That's kind of fun.
Indiana
but, like,
Jones. Come on.
It's
Come
just going for the easy, obvious targets. Like that's what every
Yes.
single one of these are. None of them are interesting. None of
Yeah.
it's just, and that to me is like I just don't know. Like
It's
I don't
lazy.
get it. I don't get the purpose. It's lazy,
Yeah.
and too often it's just straight up mean spirited, and
Yeah.
that's the one where you go,
Uh-huh.
I don't like that at all.
Completely agree.
All
Yeah.
right, we are over, and we're 15 minutes past what I thought we would end. Austin, where can we find you on the internet?
Yeah, you guys can find me on MySpace. No, I'm on YouTube, Austin Burke. I do Oscar Talk, do movie
Remember on
reviews.
MySpace how you could pick like your 5 favorite friends?
Oh,
How
yeah.
that was like were you of an age where that was like a deal breaker with friends? Did you ever be a part of that, or were you a little too young?
MySpace was like, I was on the fringe end of MySpace, beginning of Facebook. But I do remember when I was really like in elementary school, everybody was picking their friends, and I was hurt a lot of the time. Sean, you know, it's a good
like
list to be on.
craziest features that seems like such a bad idea when you just step back and you go, wait a minute, you can rank your friends publicly as a feature of your social media. Like this
Oh,
probably
boy.
won't go well. Sorry, I cut
No.
you off. You said MySpace and then you opened a file in my brain.
And OnlyFans and YouTube. You guys can find me on YouTube. Doing a live stream fairly often. Hopefully this week we'll do one before the Oscars to do one last little rundown, and then Sunday, man, the big day. I'm going to be doing a full Oscars reaction, and you can find me on Letterboxd, Twitter, Instagram, all those things as well.
Always a pleasure to get to talk movies with you, and as always, congratulations. You're how close are we to 1 year old having a 1 year old?
She's almost 9 months
Yeah.
now. So she's birthday's in June. We're getting close. She's up there standing, crawling, about to walk.
That was my next question. Like, what trick did she most recently learn, and what is she about to learn? Because that whole first year, it's just like a series of like you have phases that are only like 3 weeks long, and then they have a new trick that they do, and it's
incredible. She's taking steps now. I'm like, it was just, and she just started crawling, and it was so random, right? It's like one day she didn't know how to crawl, the next day she saw something she wanted, and boom, she's on the other side of the room. So I'm like, wow, I'm watching a human become a human. It's really cool.
It's wild, and it goes by so fast, but it also
Yes,
feels like
it
it's
does.
taking so long. And then all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, Liam is about to turn 12. That means we're 2/3 of the way to kicking him out of the house. Like, wait, what? I'm
insane.
2/3 of the way through the formal 18 years of parenting.
Oh my goodness.
And then you have a panic
It's
attack.
insane.
All right.
I've had plenty of those.
Big question, Austin. What is your OnlyFans account? Where can we get the good stuff?
Yeah, you guys can find me at. Never mind. You know what? I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let you all figure it out. Just Google pop figure feet pics, and you'll probably find me there. All right. Quick
I'll
win.
just say thank you to a few people in the chat. Wolfman, glad you could join. And everybody, head on if you like horror movies, head on over to his channel. Check it out. Known him for a while. So it's always fun we can join in the chat and support him. I pulled up an article about that Emily Blunt thing from earlier. I'll send that over your way. Alrighty, let's close it out. I got and 4 tonight. So
Ooh,
fun times.
nice.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. Keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.
Bye.